Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Robin, aka Robsta. Today I have a really cool video for you guys. It kind of comes with a really cool story. So about a year and a half ago, I was interested in getting some Doc Martin like high top boots, but they're really expensive. So I always like peruse around like thrift stores and online on Marketplace, but I often like to tell people what kind of item I'm trying to find just to get it out there. And then if anyone sees like a really good deal or something that I could scoop it up. So I was mentioning this to my boyfriend's friend, and he was saying, "Oh, that's very much my sister's vibe. I wonder if she has anything that she's looking to sell." So he reached out to her for me, and she actually had a pair that she was interested in selling. And I had said, but they were brand new, so they were still really expensive. And I said, "Is there any chance she'd want to exchange for something that I do? Maybe I could paint a jean jacket for her, or paint a pair of shoes, or make a really cool like couple sets of press-on nails or something that she felt was equivalent." So he's like, "Let me get to her and I'll see." So one day he showed up and he brought the shoes over and said, "She wants you to try them on and make sure they fit first and all this." And they fit pretty good. They're a little big, but I wanted to put some really nice comfy inserts in them. So I did that and they're perfect and I'm so happy with them. And then he said, "She's thinking about it, but she'll figure something out. So just keep the shoes for now." Then a couple months later, he showed up and had a really cool, like long leather trench coat that she was interested in getting painted with her new puppy's face on it. And I was ecstatic. She had no preference in what it was going to look like. It was going to be a surprise. And I was so happy for this. I immediately had an idea and I couldn't wait to get it drawn up for myself so I could start this process. I hadn't painted on a leather jacket before, but I had previously, within the past couple months, been painting on shoes and like experiencing that and understanding the process of that on leather shoes. So I was actually really excited to try it out on a jacket because I like the quality of the acrylic paints on leather, and I have a really good sealant and I love how it lasts. So I was really pumped for this. So this is the process of that. I am so happy with how it turned out. I know she's really happy with how it turned out, and she's a really cool person. I'll link her below. She does lashes, and she's really amazing at them. And the little puppy Marv is a little wiener dog, and I did a little cartoon of him in my style, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Enjoy! Let's get into the process of how I made this. So I started by drawing up a cartoon of the cutest little Marv here. So I turned him into kind of my own style of cartoon. I really wanted this kind of painted backing with the Louis Vuitton. The way I do my stencils usually is I'll print it off into sections, so I'll size it on my computer. This time I actually used the Cricut app because I like that I can add in the sizes. I've since then switched to using Word here and there, but I pretty much size it how I want it, copy and paste it, and get all the edges worked out. It's kind of awkward. It's not maybe the best way to do it, but it really works for me. Then I cut out all the pieces and I actually tape them together. Since I'm happy with how my drawing is on my iPad and I really want to fully recreate that image, I don't like to just sketch it from scratch, so this is my way of stenciling it on. So once I have it all cut out, I do the outline on the jacket. I had started with using a pencil. I like to do something that if I were to mess up, I can erase it or get rid of it, but the pencil wasn't really turning out. So I actually ended up switching to a white Posca acrylic marker. This gave me a really good definition. When I have to switch to this instead of a pencil, I kind of angle it in and try and trace my thing, my stencil, but by placing it a little bit further in so that I'm not making it, if I make any mistakes, they're within the boundaries of it. But anyways, it turned out really well. One thing I learned with painting on leather when I was working on some shoes was that you always want to wipe it down with alcohol just in case there's any greases or anything that'll stop it from adhering. And I think it takes off a bit of a shiny coat of it to help adhere the acrylics to it. And then with anything, when I'm doing jeans or especially anything that's got a darker background, I try and start with a full layer of white. So I went in with a layer of white acrylics and went really close to my edges, but I wasn't sure I was going to get that painterly look, the strokes of the brush, by using a smaller brush, so I actually pushed it close to the edges and then pulled out this big paintbrush to do those kind of final strokes around the edges. Once I was happy with how that turned out, I started to mix my color for that light tan Louis Vuitton color that I wanted for the background. It was mostly white with a tiny bit of brown that I was adding a little bit at a time, but it was a little too cool for me, so I ended up adding a little bit of yellow. And then that's the final look. I know it doesn't look super different, but it does make a huge difference. The white was a little too stark, and I want to do white designs on it as well. Then to go on to the next step, since I only traced the outline, I cut out little Marv's head and do another outline of him where I want him on the middle of this paint stroke. Now that I've done this lighter acrylic paint base, it's a lot easier to go in on top of that with a pencil, and pencil's a lot easier to cover up if I make any outlining mistakes. I definitely don't go too heavy with it, just enough to see it myself. And since I'm going to go straight in from here to painting the different color sections, again, just to make sure everything's exactly where I want it, I cut out bigger pieces and retrace those sections exactly where I want them. Some little details here and there, like the lips or the little increase on the ear, I do draw on myself where I feel confident. But again, I'm just so happy with how my drawing turns out digitally that I want to perfectly recreate it. And I don't want to take any risks of making the eyes wonky where I didn't want them. And so at this part, it's just strictly thinking colors and placing those colors out. So I don't want to mess around with redrawing the whole thing. So this is essentially that. I cut out the pieces of different color sections and trace them, and then I cut out where the eyes were and I trace them, and I just kind of go on with that and kind of finish off the rest of the pieces. And once I've done all that, it is time to start filling in the colors. So I mix up my paint for the lighter color, since it'll be easier to go in with the darker colors on the dog's fur to round off those edges. It'd be a little harder if I went a little bit wrong section with the dark color to then fix that with the light. So I always start with the lighter colors. So I mix up a light brown for this. Again, the background is a little bit of a light tan, so I try to make it dark enough to that there's a bit of contrast, but I don't want it too dark. And then once I've got that, I start painting in all the brown sections. I do have some gradient sections, so as I kind of go and finish these, filling in these solid sections, I use a bit of a lighter shade of that color that is mostly just on the outside of my little blob that I use to mix the paint, since I kind of only mix it in the middle, and I want it to be really close in color. So I use a bit of that lighter color on the outside to do a bit of the gradient from the top down. It's a lot easier to see on the darker sections later, but not as much on this tan section.
And that's all for the light brown sections. So now I go into the what are the black sections. When I drew this up, I really like a solid black outline. It really, to me, is my favorite part of my pieces. It brings it really cartoony and it really defines sections. So although these sections are meant to be like a black color, I always go a little bit like as dark gray as I can where you can still see the black lines. So that's what I did here. And then I just go to fill them out. And again, you'll see me do a bit of the lighter gradient from the top down on all these sections. So while the black is still wet, I want to add a gradient to it. I don't have a lighter color mix, so I mix kind of a really light gray, and since it's still wet, as I'm pulling it down, it should mix pretty well and blend, making it a pretty nice gradient. The case that I'm using for the paint, this is one of my first kind of times really using it, but it does seal up and it's supposed to keep the paint from drying out. This project was a little bit of a quicker one, but I often find myself needing to go back towards the end of a project and maybe fix up some colors. So I tried to use this for that, keep my colors in there in case something were to go wrong with the lines and I need to touch up some sections and not have to remix the paints. It worked out pretty well, but this was a pretty quick project. I find the acrylic paint on the leather dries really fast. So instead of days between layers, it was more like hours, or not even, less than that. And then I start on the lines with a fairly thick Posca marker. I also use that to fill in the sections of the eyes. And then I try not to get rid of the pieces that I cut away, because if I kind of lost sight of where certain things were supposed to end, especially when the color merges between them, I then use that again just to give myself the exact lines that I had that I really liked. And then go in with a white Posca marker and do the little highlight details and the whiskers. And then I'm going to go in with more paint, like a light brown paint, and add in the outside color part of his eye that I had in the drawing. Overlapping the white on some of the darker colors didn't show up super well, so I would just wait for it to dry and then go over with a second or third coat, whatever was needed. And then for the little Louis Vuitton design in the background, I, again, from that stencil, cut out pieces, the little white different designs. I cut out one of each. There's like 4 different designs. And then while looking at the design that I had used from an actual Louis Vuitton piece, I just placed them where I needed them, tried to do very light traces of them, since I was going to be going over them with white, and it can be a little hard to cover up the pencil with the white. And then once those were all on, I used a acrylic Posca marker, a white one, to go over all of them. I did have to do this a couple times on some of them just to kind of eliminate those pencil marks. And then once I was done with all of those, they turned out really well. I like how they look a little subtle on the tan background, but they're definitely noticeable. I go in with this matte over acrylic on leather paint sealant with just a regular brush, and then enjoy this final look at the jacket. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm really sorry about the flashing of light. This was something I noticed after I had given the jacket up, and it's not the best look at it, but overall the video does show it off really well, especially the close-ups. I'm super happy with how it turned out. I think it looks so cute, and I believe Brittany was very happy with receiving it as well. It's definitely something that I wanted to try, and it was a really cool way to do it. I like painting on leather, and I think it turned out really well, and it should last really long time and be super wearable. Thank you so much for watching this and creating with me, and I hope to see you again on another video. Bye guys!